The year was 2079, and the city of New Midas was about as alive as a slug on a Sunday. And of course, it was New Year's Eve. Xander X. Benton wasn't exactly the kind of guy who made plans, but even he had to admit that something about the impending celebration felt different this time. Maybe it was because he was standing in a holographic grocery store, watching a grumpy robot attempt to sell him champagne that was probably older than the concept of class. Or maybe it was because he was trying and failing to make sense of the invitation he'd received that morning from a group called the Ultra Glitters. He wasn't sure what exactly a glitter was, but he had a feeling that involved sparkles and possibly intergalactic political shenanigans. Your order is processed. Please verify the product choice. 300-year-old, extra gritty space bubbly, the robot droned. X narrowed his eyes at the bottle in question. It looked like it had been pulled from the wreckage of a moon landing. The label was half peeled off, revealing nothing but a scratched barcode and an emblem that appeared to have been designed by an inebriated artist. Pass, X said, shaking his head. He wasn't that desperate to get drunk. As he turned to leave, his wrist communicator buzzed. With the reflexes of someone who'd spent far too long dodging corporate drones, X slapped the screen. It was a text from his friend. Well, someone who liked to call themselves his friend, Cassidy. Her message read, "Dude, tonight's going to be a blast. Forget about the Ultra Glitters, we're going to celebrate in style. Meet me at 9 at the JumpX Lounge. Don't bring any champagne. I'm doing the drinking." Cassidy's idea of style generally involved wearing bright neon and shouting things like YWLO while tripping over things. But if he was being honest, he was curious about her idea of celebrating. Still, as he trudged out of the store, X couldn't shake the sense that something had gone off track. Normally, New Year's Eve was a time for nostalgia and ignoring your problems, but this year, something about the air felt sparkly. And then, right on cue, the sky split open. A massive golden beam of light shot into the sky, sending fireworks cascading in every direction. The sound was so loud that even the pigeons, robotic of course, had the decency to stop for a moment. In the middle of it all, a group of people floated in the sky, wearing costumes made of what could only be described as glitter explosions. They screamed, "Happy New Year," in perfect unison, and then dropped down to the streets like a poorly coordinated rave. Did we plan that? X mumbled to himself. He could only assume the Ultra Glitters were involved, but they never did anything subtle. His communicator buzzed again, snapping him out of his reverie. What the hell is going on? Cassidy's message read, "The sky is falling, and I'm pretty sure this isn't part of the vibe. Just meet me at the bar. Whatever is happening, we need to be drinking for it. Maybe even before it." As X made his way through the suddenly chaotic streets, dodging falling glitter bombs and the occasional misguided robot ballerina, he couldn't help but think, this is the kind of night that ends with me in a vat of space jello. At least, that's how it had always gone before. Meanwhile, in the JumpX Lounge, Cassidy was standing at the bar, wearing a green wig that seemed to pulse with light and trying to talk to a robot bartender about her cosmic aspirations. The bartender, a six-armed mechanical nightmare, nodded thoughtfully. "Does that come in a different flavor?" Cassidy asked, squinting at a neon-colored drink. "Maybe something that tastes like the regret I'll feel tomorrow? I'll make it extra regretful," the robot bartender said with a mechanical smile. X stepped inside just as the first real party of the evening began. The entire bar erupted in a cloud of confetti, which seemed like an odd thing to do when no one had even started drinking yet. But then again, it was New Year's Eve in New Midas. Logic had long since boarded a spaceship and left the planet. Cassidy spotted him immediately, waving a bright neon straw in his direction. "X, over here!" She grinned, looking completely unbothered by the fact that a holographic dance floor was now flickering between reality and pure chaos. "So, what's the deal with the whole sky glitter bomb thing?" X asked as he slid onto a stool next to her, trying to make himself heard over the ever-increasing volume of blaring music and holographic noises. "Oh, that? Don't worry about it," Cassidy said nonchalantly. "The Ultra Glitters are basically a cult now, and they like to make an entrance by bombing cities with sparkles. You know, for fun." "For fun?" X repeated, blinking. "That's their entire plan?" "Well, yeah. It's New Year's Eve. What else are you going to do? Sit around talking about your feelings? This is the future, my friend. We celebrate big and loud, or we don't celebrate at all. Before X could respond, the robot bartender dropped a drink in front of him, blue and bubbling with what appeared to be actual tiny meteors. He picked it up warily. I feel like this is going to give me space herpes, X muttered, taking a cautious sip. Cassidy raised her glass. Cheers to the unknown future and questionable life choices. X clinked his drink against hers. To a night we'll forget by next Tuesday. And then the lights went out. Just like that. X's first thought was that someone had tripped over the power cord. His second thought was that it might be an alien invasion. His third thought was that he really needed a better drink to handle all this insanity. When the lights came back on, Cassidy was laughing hysterically, staring at the now fully floating bartender who had somehow levitated 5 feet above them. See? Cassidy said with a wicked grin. I told you this night would be a blast. Chapter 2. The Glitter-Fueled Crisis. When the lights flickered back to life, X found himself squinting into what could only be described as a shimmering, chaotic wonderland. The Jump X Lounge had transformed into a kaleidoscope of flashing neon, pulsating holograms, and people. No, beings, hovering in midair, flailing like inflatable tube men on a caffeine high. A band of what looked like half-human, half-robot creatures in glittery jumpsuits were strumming guitars that emitted light, while holographic dolphins leaped across the ceiling. This is what happens when you let space teenagers plan a party, X said, adjusting his grip on the meteor drink, which was now bubbling suspiciously. Cassidy, meanwhile, was already halfway through her neon straw, looking completely at ease. No, this is what happens when you don't let space teenagers plan a party, my friend. You're supposed to embrace it. This is freedom. This is joy. This is lunacy, X offered. Cassidy smiled like someone who had just discovered that the universe was a toy and they were allowed to break it. Exactly. Before X could comment further, a loud whoosh sounded from above and a large, spherical object dropped from the ceiling. It was silver, shiny, and, oddly enough, had a smiley face on it. It hovered in the center of the room and projected a holographic countdown, ticking down from 2 hours, 57 minutes, and 43 seconds. Cassidy barely looked up. It's the glitter ball. It's supposed to drop at midnight. Don't worry, it's part of the ultra glitter tradition. Ah yes, the glitter ball. Nothing says end of the year like a floating disco sphere of uncertain origin, X muttered. Don't be such a buzzkill. Cassidy nudged him with an elbow. Come on, this is the future. Embrace the absurdity, and maybe, just maybe, you'll finally enjoy yourself. X took a sip of the meteoric drink. It tasted like regret, mixed with a punch of sour space fruit. He grimaced. So, I'm assuming that's the Ultra Glitter's idea of sophistication, huh? Yep, they're a cult of chaos. It's a whole thing. X's eyes darted back to the glitter ball. The countdown was ticking down faster than it had any right to. Maybe it was the drink, or maybe it was the fact that he was starting to feel lightheaded from the sheer number of sparkles in the air, but something about the glitter ball gave him a sinking feeling. Cassidy, what exactly happens when the glitter ball hits zero? X asked, half expecting a giant confetti explosion or perhaps a small solar eclipse. Cassidy leaned back in her seat, her neon wig flashing in rhythm with the music. Oh, it's just the usual. Once it hits zero, the whole city gets bathed in a layer of glitter. Everyone cheers, dances, makes questionable life decisions, and then we all wake up tomorrow with an unreasonable amount of glitter stuck in places we don't talk about. X raised an eyebrow. That sounds really concerning. You just don't get it, X. The whole point is to not get it. That's what makes it fun. Before X could respond, the glitter ball let out a series of sharp beeping noises. Everyone in the bar turned, their eyes wide with the kind of manic excitement usually reserved for competitive reality shows or actual alien invasions. Suddenly, the countdown accelerated. It was down to 0:05, and the crowd started chanting. X felt an odd, almost magnetic pull to join them. He tried to fight it. He really did. But the sheer absurdity of the moment, combined with the glitter-induced haze in his brain, made it nearly impossible to resist. 5, 4, 3. The crowd yelled, waving their hands wildly in the air. 2, 1, 0. The moment the countdown hit 0, something in the glitterball whirred and popped. For a brief second, there was a collective breath-holding moment in the air. And then, wham! The glitterball exploded in a burst of dazzling light, unleashing an avalanche of actual glitter. It poured down on the bar like it had been bottled from an alternate dimension where sparkles were the currency. And it wasn't just any glitter. This was sentient glitter. As it rained down, it started swirling in the air, forming tiny, twinkling creatures that bounced around the room like hyperactive puppies. "What the hell is happening?" X shouted, as a glittering creature flew into his drink and started swimming in the liquid. "Did you think the Ultra Glitters were just about lights and sparkles?" Cassidy yelled over the noise. No. They've been working on this for months. You're basically living in a glitter-based reality simulation now. Get with the program. Get with the Cassidy. I'm literally being attacked by glowing sentient dust. Cassidy took another sip of her drink, unbothered. I know it's awesome, right? The glitter creatures seemed to grow in number, multiplying with every wave of sparkling madness. Some of them were flying. Others were crawling on the ceiling, making the floor slippery with their sticky, shimmering bodies. In the corner, a confused-looking robot bartender was being accosted by a glitter creature that appeared to be trying to give it a makeover. "I think I've had enough glitter for the next decade," X said, trying to shake a cloud of the stuff off his arm. "Can we go somewhere that doesn't have the feel of a bad acid trip?" Cassidy grabbed him by the arm, pulling him toward the exit. "Come on, the night's just getting started. There's an after-party at the Big Bang Dome. They're serving real food." And suddenly, a glitter creature darted into X's mouth. In a special spicy surprise, Cassidy finished, grinning as X choked on the glitter. X blinked, swiping his tongue in a futile attempt to clear the glitter from his mouth. "Cassidy, if this night doesn't kill me, I'm pretty sure I'll be left with permanent glitter residue on my soul." "Welcome to New Year's Eve in New Midas, my friend," she said, grinning. "Now let's get to the real party." And as they made their way through the swirling storm of sentient glitter, X had to admit one thing. If anything could make the last year of the 21st century feel like a wild ride, it was this. Chapter 3, Glitter Bombs and Quantum Chaos. X stumbled through the streets of New Midas, feeling as if he were walking through a hallucination made of neon lights, glittery blobs, and random bursts of sound. The air seemed to shimmer with an unnatural energy. In every corner he turned felt like it could lead to either another dimension or a noodle shop. It was unclear, frankly, where the line between those two things even existed anymore. Cassidy was ahead of him, her green wig flashing in rhythm with her every move, as though it had its own sense of timing. He could see her gesturing wildly as she approached a narrow alley that led to the Big Bang Dome. "Come on, X. We're almost there," she called over her shoulder. X wasn't sure how to feel about this party. He had visions of people stuck in glittery purgatory or an entire planet covered in what was now a never-ending layer of sparkly residue. As if summoned by his thoughts, a small glitter creature darted past his face and squawked loudly, showering him with an extra layer of glitter. He swiped it away, feeling like he was battling an infestation. "This is insane," X muttered, trying not to breathe in any more glitter particles. "Who thought this was a good idea?" "You!" Cassidy shouted over her shoulder, smiling as she reached the door of the Big Bang Dome. "You're part of the genius idea. You were too busy sipping space jello to see the magic. It's about embracing the chaos, my friend." X wasn't entirely convinced, but he was here now. And, frankly, there was no turning back. He wiped some glitter from his face and stepped through the door into the Big Bang Dome. The first thing he noticed was the sound. It wasn't music. No, it was something more primal. It was a rhythmic thrum, a hum, a buzz, like the very walls of the building were vibrating with the kind of energy that only existed in alternate timelines or after a particularly heated argument with a quantum physicist. It was dark inside, save for flashes of fluorescent light that seemed to grow out of the floor like dancing fireflies, and the holographic projections of celestial bodies hanging suspended in the air. Each star, each planet, and each black hole seemed to shift and change shape with every passing second, like they were alive. "Welcome to the party," Cassidy said with a dramatic flourish. "We're about to take the concept of after party to the next level." X scanned the crowd. It was filled with people, or at least beings that looked like people. Some were human, some weren't. There was a short, squishy creature bouncing on what seemed to be air, laughing while draped in neon lights. Another was sipping from a drink that seemed to be both solid and liquid at the same time. He didn't want to ask. Before he could even process what he was seeing, Cassidy yanked him toward the bar. "Two quantum quenchers," she yelled at the bartender, a sleek, multi-limbed creature who looked more like a piece of avant-garde art than an actual person. The bartender immediately began mixing the drinks with an unsettling speed. Each ingredient came from a different part of the universe. A drop of liquid from a distant galaxy, a pinch of stardust, and oddly enough, a swirl of neon jellyfish that had been caught and thrown into a bottle. X blinked. This was not the drink he was used to. "Enjoy," the bartender said, sliding them over. Cassidy took hers without hesitation, raising it in a toast. "To new Midas. To chaos. To never remembering what happens next." X hesitated, still unsure if this drink had any negative side effects. But then again, he reasoned, the glitter was already in his bloodstream. How much worse could it get? With a deep breath, he took a sip. The moment the drink hit his tongue, X felt a shift. The world around him flickered, the stars around the room swirling like they were liquid. The floor beneath his feet seemed to rise, tilt, and bend in ways that defied the laws of physics. He could hear music, no vibrations, shifting in his bones, as though the sound itself had invaded his nervous system. "Oh wow," X said, blinking rapidly. "I think I just experienced the birth of a galaxy." "Quantum quenchers do that," Cassidy said, already bouncing to the beat of an invisible rhythm. "It's why they're so popular at ultra glitter after parties. The drink doesn't just get you drunk. It gets you reality bent." "Reality bent?" X repeated. He looked around at the room, which was now kaleidoscoping into various layers of space-time. "I think I need a manual for this." "You'll figure it out," Cassidy said, tossing back another quantum quencher like it was water. "You just have to go with it." That was all the advice she had for him. Go with it. Go with what, exactly? The fact that half the room appeared to be simultaneously on fire and underwater? Or that a small tree with a disco ball for a crown had just appeared next to him, waving its branches and dancing? X was beginning to wonder if he was actually alive or if he was trapped inside an interdimensional fever dream. But before he could spiral into an existential crisis, a loud bang echoed from the back of the room, followed by an explosion of holographic confetti. And then, in the center of the chaos, a figure appeared. At first, X thought it was just another hologram, but then the figure stepped forward, solid, tangible, and the crowd went silent. It was a tall humanoid, wearing a cloak of deep space black that sparkled with tiny stars. Its face was obscured by a helmet shaped like a black hole, swirling with the colors of the cosmos. The figure raised a hand, and the room responded. The entire crowd held its breath as the being spoke in a voice that seemed to ripple through the very fabric of reality. "People of New Midas," it said, "I have come to bring forth a new era." X stared, suddenly sobered despite the strange gravity of the moment. "Who the hell is that?" Cassidy, her expression now unusually serious, leaned in. "That, my dear friend, is the Glitter Messiah." X raised an eyebrow. "The what now?" "The Glitter Messiah. The Ultra Glitter's leader. They've been working on this moment for years. And now," Cassidy trailed off with a mischievous grin, "it's time for the ultimate New Year's Eve ritual." X looked around the room, his head still spinning, trying to make sense of what was going on. And then, the Glitter Messiah raised their arms, and the room erupted in a wave of energy that could only be described as, well, beyond anything X could comprehend. The chaos was just beginning. Chapter 4. The Ultimate Glitter Ritual. The Glitter Messiah stood in the center of the Big Bang Dome, arms outstretched like an ancient deity about to bring the cosmos into alignment. The crowd, now eerily silent, watched with a mixture of awe and what X could only describe as existential terror. He wasn't sure if it was the quantum quencher talking or the fact that the room itself seemed to be bending around him, but there was a feeling of imminent doom in the air. A glittery, sparkly doom. "I think this is where it gets weird," Cassidy whispered, her voice filled with the kind of excited anticipation usually reserved for people about to see a volcano erupt. X wasn't sure if he was ready for whatever ritual was about to unfold, but he wasn't about to let Cassidy experience it alone. His gut instinct screamed at him to leave, but his body was apparently too tangled in the strings of quantum confusion to move. The Glitter Messiah raised their helmeted head, and the swirling colors of space inside the helmet seemed to grow brighter, more intense. They spoke again, their voice resonating through every atom in the room. "The end of 1 year is but a flicker in the grand tapestry of time," the Glitter Messiah said, their voice like a strange mix of a lullaby and a cosmic warning. "But tonight we bend the fabric of the universe itself. Tonight, we will release the GlitterWave." X froze. Did they just say GlitterWave? Cassidy's eyes were wide with excitement. "Yep, it's a full-blown reality-bending event. The Ultra Glitters believe it will propel new Midas and the entire universe into a new dimension of glitter-based existence." X blinked, trying to process that. "Wait, so the whole point of this is to throw the universe into some kind of glitter-infused dimension?" Cassidy nodded enthusiastically. "Exactly. We're not just celebrating the new year. We're elevating to a new plane of existence where glitter is the dominant force in the universe." The Glitter Messiah lowered their arms, and a holographic rift split open in the center of the room, revealing a swirling vortex of pure, radiant light. It was like staring into the center of the universe, or possibly a disco ball that had gained sentience and wanted to eat you. "Everyone," the Glitter Messiah intoned, "step into the GlitterWave. Embrace your true selves, as the glitter knows no boundaries." "Step into the what?" X repeated, still trying to make sense of it all. "There's no way I'm going anywhere near that thing." "You have to, X," Cassidy urged, grabbing his arm. "It's the ultimate New Year's experience. You can't back out now." Before X could protest, Cassidy yanked him forward, and they were suddenly swept into the growing crowd of glittery revelers, all marching toward the vortex. X's feet felt like they were floating, and the closer they got to the rift, the more the air seemed to hum with energy. At the edge of the glitter wave, the crowd began chanting in unison. "Glitter is life. Glitter is time. Glitter is space." X couldn't help but mutter to himself, "Well, that's definitely one way to ring in the new year." "Shut up, X." Cassidy grinned, her face alight with the kind of joy that could only come from someone who was certain this was the best night of their life. "We're going to live forever in glitter." Before X could respond, the crowd surged forward, pulling him into the shimmering vortex. As he stepped through, it was like passing through a veil of pure, radiant light. The world around him fractured, like a kaleidoscope shattering and then reassembling itself into something new. For a brief moment, everything went dark. When the lights flickered back on, X was no longer in the Big Bang Dome. He wasn't sure where he was, or when he was. The space around him was strange. It wasn't a room, nor was it an open sky. It was a field of floating geometric shapes, all made of glitter. The air shimmered with what could only be described as pure, radiant joy, and X felt it vibrating in every bone of his body. Cassidy was already standing next to him, her face glowing with excitement. "Told you it would be amazing. We're in the Glitterverse now." "The what?" X sputtered. He tried to step forward, but the ground wasn't ground at all. It was like walking on a cloud made entirely of stardust. His feet sank ever so slightly, leaving a trail of light behind him. The space around him seemed to bend, a kaleidoscope of impossible perspectives and shapes, where gravity was a suggestion and up was an abstract concept. Cassidy danced in circles, laughing as glitter exploded in every direction around her. "This is it, X. This is the new dimension, a place where everything is infused with glitter. No rules, no limits, just freedom." X spun around in a circle, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. There were people, or more accurately, beings floating past him. Some were human, Some were creatures X had never seen before, all of them shimmering in the light of the Glitterverse. There was a creature that looked like a jellyfish with wings, and another that appeared to be a combination of a zebra and a flying carpet. They all moved in a strange, fluid dance, as if they were part of the same cosmic symphony. But X couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The edges of the Glitterverse seemed to ripple, like it was unstable, constantly shifting between different realities. Cassidy, he called out, trying to grab her attention, but her voice was swallowed by the humming energy around them. This place, it's not stable. I don't think it's meant to last. Relax, X, Cassidy yelled back, her voice barely audible over the rising hum. It's just the GlitterWave working its magic. It's like reality in HD. The boundaries between time and space are totally fluid here. I don't know if I'm ready for that much fluidity, X said, his heart racing. The glitter around him was moving faster now, swirling in unpredictable patterns, and the landscape was warping like the fabric of the universe was being stretched too thin. Just as X opened his mouth to say something else, the Glitterverse began to flicker violently. The ground, or whatever passed for the ground, shuddered beneath his feet, and the once fluid shapes started to crack, as if they were made of glass that had been overfilled with liquid light. Cassidy, X shouted, his voice breaking through the chaos. We need to get out of here. This place is breaking apart. But Cassidy's smile only grew wider. She was no longer listening, her eyes locked onto the center of the Glitterverse. There, hovering in midair, was the Glitter Messiah, now glowing even brighter, their helmet a swirling vortex of light. It's happening, Cassidy whispered in awe. The universe is merging with glitter. We're evolving. X felt the floor, no, the air, beneath him give way as the Glitterverse buckled. It was clear now. The GlitterWave wasn't some harmless New Year's ritual. It was ripping at the fabric of reality itself. And if X didn't find a way out soon, the only thing that would remain would be the glitter. Forever. Chapter 5, The Glitter Collapse. X's heart hammered in his chest as the Glitterverse around him began to crack and shift with increasing ferocity. The once vibrant kaleidoscope of lights was now an uncontrollable storm of glitter, warping space and time, splintering apart like a fractured mirror. The ground, or whatever was holding them up, began to tremble, sending waves of disorienting energy through his body. Cassidy, he yelled again, his voice barely audible over the growing hum of destruction. We need to go. This place is collapsing. It's not supposed to be like this. But Cassidy, her face radiating the kind of manic joy only possible in a reality-bending crisis, didn't seem to hear him. She was spinning in circles, caught in the glitter's magnetic pull, her arms raised to the sky as though welcoming the chaos. It's perfect, she shouted, her voice full of glee. This is it. We're free. X's breath quickened as the world tilted around him. The ground beneath his feet had completely disintegrated, leaving only floating geometric shards suspended in a turbulent sea of pure light. The space itself was unraveling like threads being pulled from the edges of a worn tapestry. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was that X could feel it, the pull of the glitter wave. The glitter was no longer just around them. It was inside them, stretching and warping their very atoms, tugging at the fundamental rules of existence. He could feel his own essence being distorted by the wave, his body flickering between forms, his thoughts slipping in and out of coherence. He was becoming part of the glitch. Cassidy, he screamed one last time, reaching out for her. She was still spinning, eyes wide, locked in a trance-like ecstasy as the glitter rained down on her, her body shimmering as if she were being dissolved in a pure stardust. X felt his chest tighten. This wasn't just some harmless party trick. This was a catastrophic breach of reality. Suddenly, the Glitter Messiah's voice boomed out, cutting through the chaos. People of New Midas, the glitter wave has begun. Time and space will be as one. The era of limitless light is upon us. Cassidy, X grabbed her arm, yanking her back toward him, but she barely noticed him, her body shaking with an unnatural intensity, as if she were being consumed by the glitter itself. with desperation clawing at him. X yanked her harder, pulling her away from the vortex of energy. He had to get her out of this. He had to save her before. There was a deafening crack. The Glitterverse split open, like a cosmic egg shattering under the pressure of an unseen force. Everything, every floating shard, every gleaming creature, every person and thing that had once made up this world, began to unravel, torn apart by the sheer force of the GlitterWave. X fought to hold on to Cassidy as the ground disappeared beneath them, as the universe itself seemed to tear at the seams. X, Cassidy's voice broke through the chaos, but she was no longer laughing. Her eyes were wide with horror, the glitter around her flickering violently, as if it were beginning to suffocate her. "What's happening? We have to leave," X shouted, panic flooding his voice. He could feel the glitter wave crashing into his very soul, but there was no time to think. He had to get her out. He had to stop this madness before the universe collapsed entirely. X's mind raced, fighting against the warping energy that was pulling at his thoughts. But then, suddenly, it hit him. He remembered something Cassidy had said earlier. "Reality is fluid here," she had said. "You just have to go with it." X wasn't sure if it was the quantum quencher still working its strange magic, or if the universe itself was giving him a way out, but in that moment, the chaotic pieces of the Glitterverse seemed to pause. Time seemed to stretch, and he could see the rift in the center of the room, the one that led back to their dimension, growing larger, wider. It was their escape, their way back to reality. He grabbed Cassidy's arm one final time, pulling her toward the rift. Her body shimmered as she fought against the glitter's pull, but X could see the terror in her eyes now. She understood. "Hold on," he shouted, and with a final burst of effort, they leapt toward the rift. For a heartbeat, everything was chaos. Nothing but swirling colors, shimmering particles, and the deafening sound of 1,000 glittering screams. And then, silence. X awoke with a gasp. He was back in the Big Bang Dome. The music was muted, the flashing lights now just faint remnants of the surreal experience they'd just lived through. His body was on the cold, hard floor, and he could feel the weight of gravity once more, the solidness of the world grounding him. Cassidy was beside him, still in her neon wig, her face wide-eyed and blinking, as if unsure of what had just happened. We made it back," she whispered, sitting up slowly, looking around at the room, now eerily quiet. The glitter wave was gone. The bizarre distortion of space-time was over. X pushed himself up, glancing around at the confused crowd, some of whom were now slowly returning to their senses. A few were blinking, trying to piece together what had happened, while others were still caught in the aftershock of the glitter. "Well, that was," X started, his head still spinning from the experience. Cassidy sat up and rubbed her temples. "Yeah, that was definitely something. But hey, at least we survived the glitter apocalypse." X exhaled, feeling his feet firmly planted on solid ground for the first time in what felt like hours. "I'm not sure I ever want to hear the word glitter again." Cassidy chuckled weakly. "You say that now. But next year, you'll be first in line for the Glitter Messiah's party." X shook his head. "No, I'm good. I'm so good." As they both stood up, dusting off the glitter that had somehow managed to stick to every inch of their bodies, X looked up at the ceiling. The holographic stars had settled, and the room was returning to its normal, albeit somewhat eccentric form. "Well," X said, trying to make light of the ordeal, "I guess at least we won't remember what happened tomorrow." Cassidy grinned. "No, we'll remember it. Trust me. Glitter leaves a mark." With one last look at the now completely normal Big Bang Dome, X sighed and shook his head. "I'm just glad it's over." And with that, they both walked toward the exit, leaving behind the chaos of the Glitterverse and returning to the much simpler world of New Midas. At least for tonight.